what makes a brand hot. And I'll try and focus a bit more on each aspect of how each of these gentlemen can bring special value to this discussion. So I'll try to take it forward there. But it's most important to ask some broad questions that will give you insights. So let me ask Subhrangshu right there, because he's done a lot of branding, not only in here but earlier. But how do you see brands in a real-time world now? You know, it's always on now. So you are naked, so to speak, all the time, where you don't have the lead time to manage a few of us in the media.
No, absolutely. I think, you know, the whole context has changed, Madhavan. I mean, you set the context well. But if you look at brands today, and if you were to sort of go back to the big theme of brands being built to last, I think that's a paradox in itself, right? Brands are not built to last because, you know, what you build today, you might have to, either it's destroyed tomorrow or you might have to self-destroy that tomorrow because you need to be contextually relevant and keep reinventing yourself. So as, you know, a favorite example that I shared with you guys a few, you know, a while back, if you look at cricket, everybody or the classical, the purists would have thought that, you know, cricket is a 5-day game and that's how it's going to be. But look at what cricket is today. And likewise for brands. I mean, today, if you look at any brand, you know, at the end of the day, what you've created today is not relevant tomorrow or not relevant in the next couple of hours. The idea is, how do you keep reinventing yourself? How do you keep yourself responding to changes in the environment? And the idea is also, how do you fundamentally adapt yourself to the changing dynamic is what is important. I mean, Arvinder will talk more about Twitter, but fact is today, if I'm on Twitter, which we are, and if there's somebody who comes back to me and says that, hey, you know what, your insurance, pardon my language, sucks, we have to respond. We can't just keep quiet and say that, you know what, we will work on a brand plan, we will release a 60-seconder, you know, TVC, which will talk about the brand and what it does and what the core essence of the brand is and what my product features are. I have to respond then and there.
I think from a brand point of view, it's very important also to take off from where Subhrangshu left off, to remain one step ahead, to keep an eye very much on what's, you know, what could come up there, what could develop or emerge out there. And it's a very fast changing environment out there, especially now. Of course, you see the regulatory environment, coupled with the fact that the social activism, heightened activism, coupled with the fact that you know, it's becoming more and more difficult to keep that very high standard of quality, consistency. So therefore, all of these things place an enormous burden back on the brand. As far as we are concerned, food and packaging, and then the two put together means that we are very much visible in the public eye, and even more so when you've actually finished the contents of the pack and you actually throw the pack, which means that now it's useless and it's termed as waste. And what we are trying to do, of course, is to ensure that, of course, we work through the so-called life cycle of the carton to make sure that everything from procuring the right materials to making sure that we reduce the footprint to the end of life, which means we ensure that packaging is recyclable, is recycled. And that is where the entire aspect of responsibility comes in.
Tell us about how do we build loyalty and continued association for a brand, keeping a long-term mind. In other words, junk the 2020 mindset and think test match.
So, you know, I think, you know, it'll be a mix between 2020 test match. I think between 2020 and test match, cricket has to be paramount, and the interest in cricket has to be paramount, right? And are people, is the young generation interested to play cricket and interested to watch cricket? That has to be the theme of, you know, the cricket association, right? And so, if you're from an Intel standpoint, when you talk about education and talk about, you know, science, I think one of the fundamental things we worry about and we really care about is innovation, right? And when we look at innovation, we believe that the world and the human race will not progress if innovation does not happen. And at some stage, we start to worry about the number of children opting for science and math as an education stream. We don't want all of them to become accountants, right? And we don't want all of them to become something else. We want a healthy percentage to have interest in science and math. We really care about it. So in that sense, our association with science and math education, that's why you see the Science and Engineering Fair, which is, termed as a Junior Nobel Prize kind of a thing. We have been working on it for a number of years. Things like getting teachers trained for technology usage. We've been doing that for over 10 years now, because we know that if the teachers don't become comfortable using technology, they will not feel comfortable teaching kids. So I think in that sense, as a brand, because you are talking not just to consumers, you have to talk to scientists also, you have to talk to influencers. The fact that we have been working with Stephen Hawking and the equipment he uses to convert his thoughts into speech, is a way to tell the world that we worry about science and we are concerned that science should prosper. So I think in that sense, when the same message a scientist takes and they form a positive opinion about Intel as a brand, but the same message the consumer also takes. That if Intel is such a brand that it is worried about innovation and science, then it's an innovative brand in itself. And the product which comes out of our factories are innovative products. They can rely on them.
Twitter as a platform is a little different from other social platforms that a lot of you use, and I'm assuming some of you use Twitter. It's live, it's public, it's conversation, which basically means, and when they say it's naked, we ourselves as a brand are naked. Every day there are conversations on our brand, which some governments don't want that to happen. And we resist that. I mean, we don't want to be the moderator of conversations globally. Our platform is there for freedom of speech. There are governments around the world, including the United States, that that ask us to take down certain things, and certain companies have complied, but we haven't, right? So we pride ourselves on the platform that we've created, right? A few things that themes that have emerged out from how brands have leveraged this platform very well, right? If you take the themes of life, public, and conversation, as Subhrangshu pointed out earlier, one myth is that brand belongs to marketing teams, and the second myth that digital teams should make sure the digital things works for them. A classic case in point, if everyone in your company, whoever is a vendor of yours, your customers, your partners, are actually your brands. We've all heard this before, but it's never been truer, because brands have moved from the 1980s era of isolated hierarchy where they will look down upon everyone else because there was no medium of communication back to the brand, where now there is a platform for to and fro communication, right? Now brands are naked. An employee in Ashley Madison can destroy a company by leaking out certain things online, right? That is the power of now these social platforms that have emerged, right? Some of you might be in jeopardy right now because you've got some accounts there, but that's a separate question, right?
Somebody called it Ashley Madison.
On the other hand, right, if you take the biggest ambassador of a brand in a company like Mahindra, is not the digital or the CMO. It is Anand Mahindra himself. He's the most followed CEO in India today, right? He carries the brand forward. He is the person who's touching the millennials that you want to. Traditional marketing guys will hire an agency, they'll make a plan, oh, this is the millennial, this is the messaging we want to put down on them, the entire team will work on it. This guy single-handedly is touching everyone on social platforms and has more connect with relevance and context than any other marketer has done till date, right? So that's the power of these platforms that reach in real-time conversations, right? The thing that you have to understand, and where the radical shift is happening of brands and marketing, is real-time. If you're going to have a hierarchical approach of approval policy of communication that exists in every company, also happens in Twitter. We have marketing departments that go through approval processes. If you follow that policy today, you will miss out on conversations. Now, these conversations could have a negative impact on your brand or could have a positive impact on your brand.